your love for God? What are you going up in that church for? What are you giving your money up in there for? What are you lifting your hands for? Do you see all that you're going through? And so all kinds of persecution, all kinds of things will be said to affect your decision. It will try to dissuade you from Christendom and try to persuade you to atheism, which is the belief that there is no God, which still takes belief. But I'll get into that another time. Brothers and sisters, it is the deception of the cerebrum. It is the deception of the cerebellum and the deception of the medulla oblongata. It is the decision of the enemy to get you to denounce your faith, denounce your salvation, denounce your deliverance, denounce the fact that he's a healer, denounce the fact that he's a way maker. The enemy wants to try to convince you through the mouths of the people you listen to that God is non-existent. But if God is non-existent, how in the world am I living in a place that I cannot afford of my own merit? How in the world am I working a job in the depth of a recession when everybody else is looking for employment? Down filling out paperwork, trying to get Section 8 and this, that, and the other. How am I maintaining it? Can't be nobody but God. You better slap somebody and tell them you can't tell me God ain't real. You ain't got the right neighbor. You might be sitting next to an atheist, I don't know. But I dare you slap somebody again and tell them you can't tell me God ain't real. You know he's real. How do you explain the prayers that I pray? And a few days later, here comes the answer. How can you explain? When I went to bed, I knew it wasn't no money in my wallet. But when I woke up, I was already worried about how I was going to get where I was going. But some kind of way, you know, too. So either way you go, it's going to be some talking going on. But God said through the Apostle Paul, it is Christ that died. Can't nobody tell you you don't qualify if they didn't get up on the cross. The next time somebody is saying something about you, ask them to show you their hands. Tell them to show me your feet. Open up your jacket and let me see your side. Because if there are no nail prints, I don't hear nobody. If there are no spear prints, then I can't hear what you're saying. Slap somebody high five and tell them I'm a God chaser. You got the wrong neighbor. Find you another neighbor. Tell them I'm going after the presence of God. Yes, sir. Separate you from the love of God. You want to slap somebody and tell them a part of my being saved means I love him back. You know what? I'm worried. Because when we start talking about loving God back, there's absolutely no way that it should be this quiet in here. I said, find somebody you can talk to in here. Slap them a high five and tell them, neighbor, my salvation means I love him back. That means with every fiber of my being, Ruby, I love him. And when you love him, Cynthia, you'll go through hell. When you love him, you'll be lied on and still show up. When you love him, come on in softly. Feel like churching a little bit. But I ain't got no preach church? Can I get a little preach church? Yeah, yeah. Yes. Tell somebody when you love him, you'll love him with every fiber of your being. When you love him, you want to be around him all the time. Ask your neighbor, how can you be around him when he's not human? Tell him, how can you be around him when he's not natural? Look back at that neighbor there and tell him that's an easy question. Tell him I can answer that with ease. Tell him the way I'm around him is when I praise him and when I worship him. But ask your neighbor, how is that so? Look back at him and tell him, because my Bible told me that he inhabits the praise, yes, of his people. Is there anybody? Yes. Is there anybody here that made up in your mind, I love him? Let me tell y'all something. There are people who leave the church because folk don't like them. There are people who walk away from God because they went through a little situation. But when you love him, you'll go through persecution and you'll come back to the church and say, through it all, through it all, I learned. Yeah, I feel like preaching today. Slap somebody high five. Tell them I love him. And tell them you don't understand how much I love him. I love him so much that I got up this morning, tired in my body. Got up this morning, not feeling well. Got up this morning, stressed out, burdened. Got decisions on the brain. Got moves I gotta make. I woke up this morning and I put my clothes on because I love him. You ought to shake somebody and tell a neighbor, I'm not just here because I'm a leader. I'm not just here because I like the service. Tell them today, I'm here because I love him. I got trust because I love him. I'm in morning because I love him. I'm shouting because I love him. Somebody, looking at me like I got three heads, but they don't understand why Pastor got to preach so hard. Because I love him. Slap somebody and tell him I love him. And when you love him, there are benefits that come with loving him. Paul said, he said, we are killed all the day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Yeah. Oh, yes. Touch somebody and tell them every time I turn around, somebody's talking. Somebody trying to discourage. Somebody trying to tear me down. Somebody trying to aggravate my last nerve. You ain't talking to your neighbor. I'm trying to have testimony service. Slap somebody. I said slap them. I don't care where you just slap them. Tell them neighbor. Somebody always fussing about me. And every now and again I want to respond. But then Paul said, Paul said, healed all the day long. And I preach here. You don't count the sheep for the song. But Paul said, nay, which is another word for but, which changes the sentence. Nay, in all these things. In other words, I don't need to respond to you. I don't owe you no explanation. I don't have to waste my time talking to you. Because in everything that you ever said about me, I am more. Praise it not be for those that were slow and quick to catch up. I got one more victory. I got one more.